Make a choice to begin anywhere in your life, and the next chapter of your journey has begun. And along the way, be open to being inspired. Listen to the conversations led by Dr. Wayne A.I. Frederick, Howard University Interim President, President Emeritus, and Charles R. Drew, Professor of Surgery, on The Journey.
Welcome to The Journey. I'm Dr. Wayne A.I. Frederick. I'm joined today by Dr. Keyana Scales, Senior Vice President of Enrollment Management and Student Success, and Dr. Torres, Executive Director of Financial Aid here at Howard University. Higher education continues to evolve, bringing new expectations, challenges, and opportunities for students, families, faculty, and institutions. At Howard, our responsibility is not only to respond to those changes, but to ensure our community has the information, resources, and support needed to navigate them successfully. Together, we'll discuss the realities of this ever-changing landscape, the resources available to our community, how we can continue to support student success while adapting to change, and how we can best prepare our community for a new normal. Let's begin. So, Dr. Scales and Dr. Torres, let me start with you, Dr. Torres, because financial aid is almost a bit of a buzz phrase at this point. When you think of financial aid today, what is probably the most major changes that you are concerned about?
So the most major changes that I'm concerned about are the changes that's going on with the federal government. The Work and Family Tax Credit Act, formerly known as the Big Beautiful Bill, it's a huge effect on our students because the loans have changed, the loan amounts for new borrowers. So for example, in the past, previous borrowers, they can borrow up to the cost of attendance. Now with the new change, there's a cap to it for the Grad Plus loan. There's a cap to it for the unsubsidized loans. There's a cap to it. And so that has created some angst amongst our students. There has also caused some concerns regarding retention. So what our office has done within the Office of Financial Aid is help educate the students about other options, which are private loans.
Now, those caps, we still charge less than most of our competitors. So with that in mind, how really significant are the caps with respect to our students when we look at the total cost of attendance?
So with our students are not only using the funding to pay for tuition, but they are also paying for off-campus housing. They're paying for off-campus meals. And so a lot of our students in the past, they have borrowed up to the cost of attendance so that they can get a refund to pay for outside of the college or university expenses that they have. So that right there is something that is really changing. And so our students have to adjust to those changes. And so we've been trying to educate them on borrow what you need to pay for tuition. Like our job isn't to make sure you have enough money to get the fancy cars or the fancy whatever. You're here for education, so spend enough or borrow enough to just pay for that.
And cost of attendance now at some schools have finally hit 100,000 plus. Howard is not at 100,000 plus, but how much is Howard at today?
So for our professional students, usually our cost of attendance can go up to around like between $80,000 to $90,000 a year. And so thank goodness that our tuition did not increase this past academic year. And so I'm hoping that it can stay the same so that it can be more affordable for our students to stay here. Okay.
And let me turn my attention to Dr. Scales. Obviously having a strategy around what we do is key because we last year got 37,000 applications. The prior year, some 40,000 applications. We're only enrolling at the undergrad level. Some 2,500 was what we were aiming for. When we look at those numbers, it's concerning in terms of how you funnel down from 40 to 50,000 applications all the way down. And so when you think about an enrollment strategy, what comes to mind? What types of elements you're looking at?
Lots of things. So first, we're an HBCU, so the HBCU mission of access and accessibility is keen. Also preparation, and that looks like whether students are bringing the academic, social, behavioral preparation to be successful in college. Thinking about our capacity to support, so where are our open spaces within different academic programs? What financial support, to Dr. Torres' point, do we need to provide? And then most importantly, this is the last stop to adulthood. So how are we really assessing grit, which is something that is very difficult to do in a one-dimensional application process, but how do we actually identify the students that are well prepared to be successful at an institution like Howard?
So let's discuss some issues around that and the elements around it. This past summer, well documented, that we had students who were not responding to emails and communications, and probably in excess of 280 students never really communicated with us at all.
Sure.
So having said that, as we try to change that dynamic of what happens, what it is that you want students to do and why. Why should they be responding to emails? Why do they need to pay 50% of the outstanding balance before a certain deadline? What is the purpose of all of those actions?
Sure. We tell students that if they show up and do their part, then we will do ours in terms of positioning them to be successful once they leave. What that means is there's a need to organize our resources such that we have the appropriate sections of classes. We can act like we're preparing for people to show up to our home, right? And there's a very big difference between someone who is passing through and their experience versus someone who has been invited. And when we extend an offer for students to enroll at Howard by way of the acceptance letter, we are essentially inviting them to our home. And our promise is that when we do so, we will present them with every possible way to be successful. So today is the first day of class, understanding that there are seats that need to be prepared, faculty that need to be hired, et cetera. What we know about the enrollment checklist, so everything from confirming your plans to enroll to securing your housing deposit, the most predictive variable is whether students will actually pay significantly towards their cost of attendance. That is the stickiness that goes with the checklist, and so that is the most important factor as we look at all of the things that we ask students to do throughout the summer. It is the most predictive in terms of whether they will actually appear.
We have an attrition rate of about 10% every year, which is mainly accredited to financial issues that students may have. So having them not start, I guess I would say, behind and having to catch up every year, I think is key. But with that in mind, is there an opportunity to figure that out earlier in the cycle so that there's less distress among students and families, and we have students and families being able to make other choices that are more suitable to their circumstance?
Absolutely. Fit includes finances. And so as we are on the road in our recruitment strategy, it's being very clear and transparent about not only the cost of attendance, but also our capacity to support students by way of financial aid. Howard is a dream school for many, and unfortunately that pathway to the dream might look very different than the traditional pathway that students are expecting when they graduate from high school. And so what we endeavor to do is to equip students and parents with a very realistic picture of what affordability may look like in terms of Howard, both with the cost of attendance, but also the amount of institutional support that we can provide.
And so, Dr. Torres, when we talk about institutional support, what type of institutional support did Howard afford to those students coming in this year, and especially the 502 students that we were concerned about that were not responding to us?
Yes, and so what we were able to provide is under the program called Howard University Freshman Scholarship. So every first-time in college student was packaged with one of the 7 HUFS awards. And so that's basically a discount on tuition and fees. It's not real money, but a lot of our students got admitted to other schools, and the other schools didn't provide any type of institutional aid. So that's one thing that our university was able to do to help the students that were admitted into the university.
And the 7 levels, give us the range of the 7 levels.
Sure. So presidential is full ride, and the lowest amount is the access grant. That's about $9,000 a year. So students are able to continue to receive that every year if they meet the renewal requirements. So we usually split it in half. You get half for the fall semester and half for the spring semester, as long as you enroll full time.
Right. And so that sounds like about 12% and all the way to 100% support.
Yes.
And every single freshman student gets some type
That's correct.
of that support. So in other words, we are making an investment
Yes.
in every single student who's coming here to Howard University.
Yes.
All right, and so it sounds reasonable to then ask them to make their commitment.
That's
and
right.
so when you think of their commitment, what type of range were we asking for commitment when we asked for 50% of the outstanding payment?
Yes. And so to determine need, we coach students through looking at whatever the cost of attendance is, minus all of the aid that we package them with, to include institutional aid, federal aid, which includes loans and grants, and then whatever's left over is the need. And so over the summertime, our financial aid counselors met with the first-time in college students and their families to walk them through their packages, to let them know, this is your out-of-pocket expense. What is the plan? And let's think about the future, because tuition may increase, and so we have to look at all 4 years, not just this first year that you're in college. And so what that looks like is different private loan options. What that looks like is them doing the legwork to find other external scholarships. So we walk them through that. We also have private loan lenders. We're preparing for an event that's going to come up in October to introduce our student population to a lot of private loan lenders to help them fill that gap that is coming about.
And I was impressed because every one of these packages were personalized. And I actually looked at some of the videos. So I was very, very impressed. It was very specific. The numbers were pertaining to, the individual student. And so I think that was an excellent option as well. Having said that, there are a group of students who come here who we know do not have the type of family support. We have students who are homeless, emancipated minors. We have students who may not be in contact with one family member. As a matter of fact, I got a call earlier about a student who just showed up, who was enrolled last fall, was unable to enroll in the spring, did not have a good academic record in the fall, was able to pay the bills, didn't accept her Parent Plus loan, and is now back here with a balance of about trying to register, but would have to come up with another $27,000. No parent involved, nowhere to live, right? And so that's a reality of a student we want to support as well. What are your suggestions for those students, those types of students who do not necessarily have all of the support, opportunities around them?
Right. And so the end goal is to ensure these students make it through graduation. So our job is to make sure they are aware of all of the resources that we have available to them. And that includes doing different types of appeals, special circumstance appeals, professional judgments appeals. We also have what we call donor scholarships, where we have alumni and different outside individuals that raise money and donate to the university. And so as long as the students exhaust all the aid that we package them with, we do consider them for donor scholarships for our continuing students.
Okay. And so getting back to the strategy, a lot of the focus is always on the grad, but let's spend a little bit of time with the grad and professional world. Medical school, 10,000 applications. We enrolled a class of 135. Nobody came off of the wait list for the first time. Law school classes, 180, pretty large class for our law school. Dental school, again, a lot of interest. So clearly, our demand is extremely high, which concerns me because it appears that the number of African-American students at other schools is going down. What will, as you look into the crystal ball, I know you don't have your strategy developed, but what types of things are you concerned about when you hear those numbers or you see those numbers in our grad and professional schools?
Being prepared to support them. The value proposition for college nationally, that's a national conversation, is college worth it? What we're seeing at Howard is students, by and large, say yes. A Howard education is worth it. And so we need to be able to organize resources to predict the volume of students that we can accept both at the undergrad and graduate level, as well as professional schools, to your point. What that means, too, is how do we organize our footprint to ensure that we're able to not only provide the physical space, but the type of experience that goes on to make students success stories when they become alums. And so when I think about the strategic enrollment planning process, it is thinking about it, first, capacity, second, resources. So how do I then say to you, President Frederick, if we want to enroll 20 additional medical school students or law school students, it's going to take this additional investment by way of their support in order to make that happen. And then we organize internally to say, okay, what is the cost of educating students to our standard? And we mobilize our resources accordingly.
So, it's a good point. The licensing bodies, especially at the grad and professional level, license us for a certain number of students. And while we have enough applications to double the size of the medical school, we can't just go out and do that. Plus, to the resource question that you brought up, we have to hire more faculty. We probably have to get more space, more patients for the students to see. So with that in mind, let's take our scope out nationally. Are you concerned nationally about the trend that's occurring and the increased demand at Howard, which suggests to me that there probably is less interest and demand elsewhere?
So the national trend is a decline in overall college-going populations. And again, to your point, Howard is seeing an inverse of that trend. In terms of whether I am concerned, I'm concerned to the extent that we need to be prepared to support students fully. What we're seeing is students are bringing with them other circumstances that we cannot control. So the need for wraparound services is there. So how do we, in addition to classroom space, ensure that students are fully supported socially, behaviorally, et cetera, so that they can be well positioned to be successful? And I think that's part of the conversation nationally that's missing. We know that COVID had a significant impact on student development. So how do we teach them how to engage with one another so that when they are entering into the professional workspace, they're very prepared to adapt to the environment? Also understanding how students learn. So how do we address our pedagogy, et cetera, to ensure that we're meeting students where they are, to ensure that they are receiving the types of instruction that has made Howard legendary since 1867.
And so to put you on the spot a little bit, since you did mention in terms of giving them exactly what they need, obviously marketplace changes in terms of what students can come out and go do. Do we need to have all the majors that we have currently? And if not, how do we go about a process to determine what we should be offering and what we should be sunsetting?
I think the first step is to really think about marketplace. So what is in demand in terms of professions, and how do we align our course offerings to ensure that students are meeting the moment in terms of employability? Students come to any university, Howard specifically, because they have an expectation of optimal preparation. That means ensuring that our courses, our majors are relevant, and doing an environmental scan periodically to ensure that we are in alignment with workforce. And so when I think about strategic enrollment planning, there's an element to that, reviewing our academic programs to ensure that they are well positioned, again, to support students to be optimally successful.
All right. So as we do that scan, if we decided we no longer need any more surgeons like myself, you're willing to come and propose that we stop?
I've been bad cop, and so what I would do is to talk about, first and foremost, do we reimagine? So is there a possibility to infuse relevancy where there may be a gap? In the absence of that, then we do need to have serious conversations about what it looks like to honor students who have an interest in programs but may not necessarily be profitable or, most importantly, marketable in the workforce.
All right. And so Dr. Torres, obviously the affordability issue is not going to go away. And you said that you were thankful that we did not raise tuition and that you're hopeful that we don't raise tuition again. But if we don't do that, I certainly have to pay you guys more as you guys, you look at the cost of living and those types of things. And so we have to look at the overall revenue from that perspective. When students are looking at that affordability issue, I'd like you to give me the perspective of, as an institution, what are some of the factors we should be taking into consideration for affordability? And then for students, what are some of the realistic things they should be thinking about when it comes to affordability?
Right. From an institutional perspective, we have to keep the lights on. We have so many faculty and staff here, they have to get paid. We need to make sure that the resources that we're talking about, that we have it for our students. And so if we don't have the students to pay the bill, we don't have the money to provide the resources. And so it's a trickle-down effect from the student's perspective. From the womb, I've always wanted to come to Howard. I hear that every other email and phone call, I hear that, I understand it. But because I'm in the industry of a financial aid administrator, our team have to have those tough conversations. And, of course, we want you to be here too, but if you can't afford to be here, that's a different conversation. Let's talk about ways in which you can continue to come here, because we don't want you to come and drop out. So we are having those tough conversations. We are providing options, and a lot of the options are surrounded around loans. And a lot of our families, they don't want to take out loans, or the parents are concerned about their credit, not being able to pass the credit check in order to even get a Parent Plus loan. graduate students credit checks in order to get, the loans and, for the professional students. So there's challenges all around. One good thing, about the private loan industry, they are laxing some of their requirements as far as the credit requirement and being able to allow more students to qualify for some of their loans. But we're not in the position to tell students, choose that lender or that lender. We have to tell them, these are all of your options, and we have it posted on our website called Elm Select. But that's the conversation. You have to take out loans, or when we go out into the fields to speak with high school students, we talk to their parents, what about your 529 plan? It's not too late to start saving for that. With students, every time I walk the yard, everyone has Chick-fil-A and all that, So some of that money, we can put it towards your balances or, federal work study. We can't force students the money that they earn from federal work study to pay their bill, but that is an option to use to pay your bill. So just making sure that the students are aware of all of their opportunities, and it's up to them to make the final decision.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think what is some of the advice you would give students for staying in touch, for staying connected? People get so many emails these days. Why and how should students stay connected to make sure they don't miss deadlines, they don't miss information, they apply for things on time? What's your advice to students?
It's very critical because things are ever changing. With financial aid, we not only work for Howard University, we also work for the federal government. And so with the new changes in the White House, we have to ensure that all of our student population and families are aware of the changes. And so what we've been doing is financial aid virtual workshops. We're planning to do some in-person workshops. We've been partnering with WHUT to ensure that they get the information so they can spread the word to their peers as well. And also providing information to deans and chairs across the university so they can mention any type of updates needed when they are meeting with their faculty and staff as well. So we are also using other ways of communications via text messages, and we do Message Mondays where emails go out every Monday to students regarding changes or things that we need for them to know. And so there's some things that we need to tweak around that, but the more in this situation, it's not less, it's more. It's more is more. And some students are like, well, I get so many emails, it's just overwhelming. Okay, I understand that, but stop by our office. If you're not checking your emails or your text messages, we're here. And so I'm looking forward to some changes there, and so that we can always be available to all of our student populations.
Right. One of the major things I see, as I walk around campus on the first day of classes, was the one-stop solution in Blackburn. Why put everybody in the same place in terms of the services, the bursar's office, financial aid office, et cetera? And how effective is it for students, especially at the beginning of the semester, to be able to get all of those services in one place?
Sure. I think the biggest strategy is to avoid this, right? So going into one space and saying, oh, you're in the wrong space, you need to go talk to this person. So the concept around One Stop is to have multiple people in one place, cross-trained, so that you have one conversation that will allow you to get your entire business handled in that one sitting. Depending on the complexity, we may be able to accomplish that in short time. I'm excited about spring because we will have a shiny new space that will be dedicated specifically for those conversations. My hope is that students will take advantage of them earlier so that when first day of class arrives, they're doing what they came here to do, which is be in the classroom and learn and interact with peers versus trying to manage last-minute business processes.
I was just going to ask you, why not do it all the time? Why not do it year-round? But it sounds like you have plans to put everybody in one space so they walk into one area and they get everything done.
That is correct.
That's excellent. And where would that space be?
That will be in the old middle school building. So if you're familiar with campus, it's right beside the undergraduate library in the heart of the yard. So students are going to be in that space anyway. And so just popping in and getting last minute questions is the goal.
And for us older people, it's in the old human ecology building, but that's the really older people like myself.
Okay.
So as we start wrapping up, people are questioning the value of higher education today, as you said, the proposition around what is the return on that investment. And do you need to get on that in order to get on the economic escalator, which was the way most people in this country could get on the economic escalator? What do you think the discussion should be around higher education and its value, HBCUs and their value, and specifically Howard and its value?
So all of the above. I think that one of the benefits of higher ed is not just the professional development that you receive. So you can go to a trade school theoretically and get very intensive information about how to go into the workforce. But there's something about being amongst peers, developmental challenges. So making sure that we're in alignment and I'm motivating you to be your best self. I think that's something that only a higher ed environment can produce. I think in terms of Howard has a very long history of Black excellence specifically, but I would say brilliance is incubated on this campus. And it's something inspiring about walking across the yard and seeing young people every day who are seeking to be their best self and being a part of that conversation. And so some of your greatest experiences, I think we can all attest to, come from just being in the dorm rooms after hours, as well as having someone as a mentor by way of faculty, et cetera, that can push you to grow and to think differently and outside of the box, so that when it does come time for you to walk across the stage in the moment, you know that you are, again, optimally prepared in an environment that doesn't always assume that you are.
Okay. And for each of you, what's the most important message for the community you want people to take away as we start this new academic year?
So the most important message I would say, and it sounds kind of cliche, but piss poor preparation promotes piss poor performance. And so financial aid is here to help. We want to make sure everyone is aware of all of the things, when we package them with their student award notifications that goes out, making sure they understand what's in their package, making sure they know if there's an action item that you need to turn in, that's a part of the preparation. Make sure you take care of that so we can process the aid so it can disperse, ensuring that you're not only communicating with your siblings, but also your parents, because it's an investment. And like I said before, the end goal is making it to graduation. So we're going to do what we can as long as you do what you can so we can hit the goal.
So preparation, we want people to be prepared, follow up on emails and action items.
Same. Everything's easier with a plan. Developing that plan very early. So prior to your putting Howard on your dream list, we obviously want you to do that, but again, understanding what that requires. Parents also have an important role in whether students are successful, so ensuring that we equip parents with the information that they need in order to support their students, and then paying attention to deadlines because they matter both at Howard as well as in the workforce.
All right, so planning, it sounds like preparation and planning, so we'll go with the P's.
That's right.
Today. I want to thank Dr. Keyana Scales and Dr. Emma Torres for joining me today. As discussed, change brings challenges, but it also creates opportunities. Our responsibility at Howard is to make sure our students, families, faculty, and staff have the information, resources, and support they need to navigate these challenges and changes successfully. Even as the higher education landscape evolves, our mission remains clear: to provide access to an exceptional education and support our students throughout their journey, as well as prepare them to lead and serve in a changing world. To our students and families, stay informed, ask questions, use the resources available to you, and know that the Howard community is here to support you. I'm Dr. Wayne Frederick. Please join me next time on The Journey.
This program was produced by WHUT and made possible by contributions from viewers like you. For more information on this program or any other program, please visit our website at WHUT.org. Thank you.